Wake up, America. It's the Comm Center with Drew Breasy. It's a TV show on the internet about two best friends who defy legal standards and try not to get sued by broadcasting the opening statements of Donna Adelson, which I shouldn't have gone live yet because they did this yesterday too. Good morning, everyone. We're about to begin. But before we do that, let's retire to the jury room for 30 minutes.
Is that what this has come to, John?
I think so. Congratulations, Drew. Not only are your favorite two criminals soon to be on the streets of Florida, killing again, but we reached 10,000 subscribers last night after years of toil and no pay. We finally got there. So just wanted to say congratulations to you. How did you sleep? We were live last night. By the way, I didn't even fix my camera. I'm tiny again.
Yeah, I didn't sleep. I don't I sleep upside down like a bat to begin with, but last night was not a night for sleep. I mean, why would
we were too excited watching the thingy update. Let's take the thingy, the app that helps us understand YouTube. Let's take a few moments to say good morning to our fans. Foxy's here. She's been here since the very beginning. Left us our first voicemail. Jenny's here, of course. D. Mitchell's here. It's good to see you this morning. The Comm Center's here. Pascaline from over in France. She's watching. Good morning. Tyler's here, wondering why we're here on Friday. Tally's here. Congratulations on your 10K, she says. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And my thanks to the judge for bothering to get up there and say, we're starting now, but we're not starting.
Right. That was not fair.
So my mistake, everyone. The judge said the court would start at 9 o'clock Eastern. So it's my fault for thinking that would actually happen.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's very convincing, though, listening to some of these other guys like Mentor Lawyer, who's actually in the courtroom. And then that other guy, Joel Waldman, I think his name is. But so wait, Tally, are you saying that they're live on another stream? Because if they're on Court TV, I'm probably just going to quit.
You're going to quit? Like,
yeah, because I told you to shy away from.
Oh. I doubt it.
Okay. Anyway, I got distracted. What was I saying, John?
Oh, they are started.
Oh, yep, they are live. Huh. We're refreshing furiously.
An extreme amount of stress to Donna Adelson and her husband, Harvey Adelson. And Charlie Adelson was also the person that Donna Adelson relied on to solve her problems. And her daughter and grandsons having to live 8 hours away in Tallahassee was a big, big problem for this defendant. And this defendant made it Charlie Adelson's problem to solve. And although the divorce between Wendi and Dan Markel was final a year before the murder, throughout that year, litigation is still ongoing, to say the least. Each side is continuing to routinely file violations of the custody agreement, violations of the settlement agreement, and that continued right up until Dan Markel's death in 2014. A few months before the murder in 2014, Dan Markel alleged that the defendant, Donna Adelson, was disparaging him to his children. He was very worried about her trying to alienate him from his children. She was doing this by calling him stupid in front of the boys and telling the boys that Dan Markel was trying to take them away from her. Dan Markel asked the court to prevent this defendant from having unsupervised contact with her grandchildren. And this motion was still pending in court when Dan Markel was killed. And the murder of Dan Markel ensured that not having access to her grandchildren would never be a problem for this defendant. And what do you know? About 48 hours after Dan Markel was killed, after the shooting happened, Wendi Adelson and the little boys relocated to Miami, moved into the defendant's home with her, and the boys started school down the street. And just like that, their father was effectively erased from their lives, and the Adelsons' big problem had been solved.
I knew that was going to be the case.
Trial that the Adelson family is a very tight-knit family. The defendant, her son Charlie Adelson, and her husband Harvey Adelson actually all worked together at their family's dental practice. The defendant, Harvey Adelson and Charlie Adelson are dentists there, and the defendant managed their accounts at the office. She was the details person. And this defendant, though, she managed much more than just the office for the Adelson family. She was the matriarch, and a domineering one at that. She ran the office, the home, and the lives of the Adelson family members. After Dan Markel was killed, law enforcement interviewed Wendi Adelson. Wendi Adelson told police, and the police confirmed this, that she was at home having her TV fixed, at her home in Tallahassee, having her TV fixed at the time of Dan Markel's murder. And when police asked her, well, do you know anyone who would have a motive to kill Dan Markel? Wendi Adelson acknowledged that her family had a motive to want Dan Markel dead, and said that her parents had more reason to dislike Dan Markel than anybody else. At one point in the interview, police allowed Wendi Adelson to make a phone call to her parents to let them know that Dan Markel had been shot.
We covered that.
And after she got off the phone with her mother, the defendant, Wendi Adelson said to police, well, they acted surprised, so that's a relief. And when asked by law enforcement,
what a weird thing to say, you're
anyone
right,
could have killed Dan Markel on her behalf, she also told the police about her brother, Charlie Adelson. Wendi admitted to police that her brother, Charlie Adelson, had joked that he looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel as a divorce present, but decided to buy her a TV instead because it was cheaper. And what do you know? The same TV that Charlie Adelson bought his sister as a divorce gift would be Wendi Adelson's alibi the morning of the murder. An alibi, the TV repair appointment.
Oh, this is good.
That was set up by her parents, Harvey Adelson and Donna Adelson, the defendant. So this path of looking into Dan Markel's personal life to see who would have motive to kill him leads law enforcement to the Adelsons, including this defendant, a woman who vowed to never, 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 never give up on getting her daughter and grandsons to Miami.
In the words of a necklace.
Her son, Charlie Adelson, who told his family that he'd looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel, as Wendi said, was just a joke. But if Charlie Adelson was just joking about hiring a hitman, that joke, that stopped being funny when Dan Markel was actually killed by a hitman. While the police are trying to investigate motive, they are simultaneously following that second path of the investigation by tracking down that light-colored Prius the neighbor saw fleeing from the scene. When law enforcement retraced Dan Markel's steps on the morning of his murder, they uncovered some very chilling surveillance video of that light-colored Prius fitting the description given by the neighbor, following Dan Markel into the Premier Gym parking lot and waiting for an hour while he was inside, and then following him home from Premier Gym back to Benton Hills. And these surveillance images, coupled with a massive amount of phone and SunPass records gathered in this case, help police track down the exact car used to commit this crime. But police still had to figure out, okay, we got the car, but who was in this car? And why did that person kill Dan Markel? So law enforcement did a painstaking review of digital evidence in this case. And when I say painstaking, finding this Prius and finding evidence in these phone records was not an easy task. And it took much longer than your average investigation of a shooting, as you'll hear. But law enforcement eventually found that needle in the haystack. They found a number that communicated with the cell tower that services Premier Gym at the exact time when the Prius was there. And it was a number with a Miami area code. And that number belonged to a man named Sigfredo Garcia. Law enforcement examined Garcia's call logs, and they saw that he was in frequent contact with another number that was present at Premier Gym that day. And that number belonged to a man named Luis Rivera, who is a longtime friend of Garcia, and he's also from Miami. They both are. Police then looked at Garcia and Rivera's phone records, which showed that their phones left Miami 2 days before the murder, so July 16th. They came to Tallahassee, and on the day of the murder, on the 18th, they followed Markel to Premier Gym. The phone data shows that these men turned their phones off just minutes before the murder took place, and their phones then stayed off for about an hour or so after the murder until they were well southbound to Miami. I think around the Gainesville area, the phones turned back on. And then once they got back to Miami, a bank's ATM camera caught them in the light-colored Prius at a bank drive-thru and caught both of the men in the Prius. So police figured out the identity of the two men responsible for following and killing Dan Markel. But they continued to look for evidence to explain why these seemingly random men came all the way to came all the way to Tallahassee to kill a man that they'd never met. What or who is the connection between the killers and the victim? The defendant in her emails obviously had demonstrated ample motive to want Dan Markel dead, but how do we get from these two random and hired killers to her? Well, those phone records that I talked about, they revealed that one of the shooter, Garcia's, most frequent contacts was a woman named Katherine Magbanua. She goes by Katie. The shooter and Magbanua have a long history of an on-again, off-again relationship, and they share 2 kids in common. This is Garcia and Magbanua. And lo and behold, these 2 paths of the shooter's car and the motive, they converge when law enforcement sees that Katherine Magbanua is also one of the most frequent contacts in the phone records of Charlie Adelson, the defendant's son. The same son that she had been nagging to death about his sister being stuck in Tallahassee. Law enforcement also learned that at the time of this murder, Katherine Magbanua was dating Charlie Adelson. So Dan Markel was a problem the defendant needed to solve. The defendant's son, Charlie Adelson, was looking to hire a hitman to kill Dan Markel. Dan Markel is killed by a hitman. And who ended up being the hitman? The hitman that killed Dan Markel? Someone with a close relationship to Charlie Adelson's girlfriend, the father of her children. So you can see how both paths, followed by investigators, charted the way to this defendant. Not only by looking into the motive, led law enforcement to the defendant because of her hatred of Dan Markel and her son's apparent efforts to hire someone to kill him, but also looking into that car fleeing the scene led law enforcement to the defendant through her son's girlfriend at the time. So 2 investigations, 1 conclusion. Law enforcement also tried to follow the money in this case, and that was a 3rd way.
Follow the
that
money. I
evidence
said
in this
that.
case pointed to the defendant. Law enforcement reviewed bank records, employment records, DHS-MV records of all the suspects, and saw that in the months after the homicide, Garcia, Rivera, and Magbanua all acquired some big ticket items. Rivera and Garcia both bought motorcycles and cars. Magbanua got a breast augmentation surgery and later received a black Lexus sedan whose previous owner was Harvey Adelson. Katherine Magbanua's bank records were analyzed, and there was no check ever written or matching cash withdrawal for the car or the breast augmentation. Bank records also
better
showed that
return those
Magbanua's
boobies.
account had a huge spike in cash deposits around the time of the murder. She deposited more money in her account in the 5 weeks after the murder
Is that
than in the
frown
entire
going to become a
year
meme, Drew?
before the murder. And this was during a
What?
time when there was no
His frown, will
record
that become a
of her
meme?
being employed anywhere.
Oh,
And also, about
could
2 months after the murder, this defendant added Katherine Magbanua to the payroll at the Adelson family's dental practice, the one that she kept the accounts for, the defendant kept the accounts for. And the defendant started issuing her regular checks from their business account every 2 weeks, despite the fact that she did not work there at the time. Magbanua didn't work there. Law enforcement noticed that each one of the 44 checks that were written to Katherine Magbanua every 2 weeks over the course of the next 2 years after the murder were signed by this defendant, Donna Adelson. So the money was talking, but what about the suspects? Law enforcement wanted to know what they were saying. In examining the phone records in this case, law enforcement noticed a distinct pattern of communication surrounding important events or dates in this case. The phone calls always went from this defendant to her son, Charlie Adelson, and then from her son, Charlie Adelson, to his girlfriend, Katherine Magbanua, and then from his girlfriend, Katherine Magbanua, to the shooter, Garcia, and then back the other way, like train cars. They only seem to touch the car directly in front and directly behind them. The defendant never calls her son's girlfriend, Katherine Magbanua, or the shooter, or vice versa. Charlie Adelson never calls the shooter, or vice versa. So, if this is a murder for hire conspiracy, as law enforcement suspects, could it be that the defendant and Charlie Adelson are wisely insulating themselves from the actual shooters by having Magbanua act as the middleman? Law enforcement decided to launch an undercover operation designed to clarify who are the members of this conspiracy and how information was traveling within the conspiracy. Police applied for and received court authorization to listen in real time to the phone calls of Charlie Adelson and Katherine Magbanua, the people in the middle of this train car. And this is what's known as a wiretap. By this point, though, it was April of 2016. It took about 2 years to do this investigation to find out who was in the car and to get this wiretap going. So at this point, it's been 2 years, almost 2 years since the murder. And at this point, in April of 2016, Charlie Adelson and Magbanua are no longer dating. They've been broken up for over a year. Katherine Magbanua at this point is actually back together with Garcia. We heard they're on again, off again, and have these kids together. Charlie Adelson has moved on he's had many other girlfriends at that point since Magbanua. And Charlie Adelson and Magbanua, though, they are still friends. They remain close friends since their breakup, and they're still in regular communication by April of 2016, even though they're not together anymore. Rivera, the second hitman in that Prius, was in prison by this point, doing time on an unrelated charge. And the defendant is happily taking care of her grandkids all day, every day. So all the members of this conspiracy have presumably gone on with their lives, believing they've gotten away with murder. So what reason would they have to be discussing the murder at that point if police are listening in? They wouldn't. So police needed to stage an event that would generate some conversation, some activity between the members of the conspiracy so they could see who the members of the conspiracy were. Their plan was to send an undercover agent posing as someone on behalf of Luis Rivera. He was the hitman who was incarcerated by April.
You think Oscar's at the gallery and he's just waving to Donna? Remember me?
To the defendant, Donna Adelson, on the street.
He waves a little piece of paper.
To walk up to Donna Adelson on the street and try to blackmail her for money. Law enforcement refers to this as a bump. So this undercover agent posing as a blackmailer, and this is an actual picture from the surveillance cameras, that this is the undercover agent passing a piece of paper to Donna Adelson back in 2016. This undercover agent is posing as a blackmailer. He hands the defendant a piece of paper, and on the piece of paper is a news article about Dan Markel's murder. And written on the piece of paper is a phone number and the amount of $5,000.
And again, if she did not have him killed, it would mean nothing to her.
The defendant that he knows the Adelsons are taking care of Katie, and he's basically there to blackmail to get more money out of them or out of her on Rivera's behalf, to even things out, because he knows they're taking care of Katie. He never says Charlie Adelson's name or anything about Charlie Adelson to Donna Adelson. The defendant then puts the piece of paper in her purse and walks away without ever looking at the piece of paper, because she knew exactly what it was about. Then law enforcement listens in to see what will happen next. Will the defendant go straight to the police to report the blackmail, or will she do something else entirely? And as suspected, based on the previously observed communication pattern, the first person that this defendant calls is Charlie Adelson, despite the fact that the blackmailer never mentioned Charlie Adelson to her. On that first call, you would think the first thing that Donna Adelson would say to Charlie Adelson is, "Oh my God, so crazy. Some man just came up to me, handed me an article about Danny's murder, and he's demanding money from us." But she never says any of that. In fact, the defendant never says Dan Markel's name at all. Instead, she tells Charlie Adelson that she needs to talk to him in person about some paperwork that was just delivered to her. She said that it involves the two of us.
Both of us.
And that
she's locked into whatever Charlie did now at this point.
Talking about.
Right. Melded.
The defendant and Charlie Adelson continue talking, and she says that he should bring cash to their meeting. And she says, the TV is probably about 5.
So clever, Donna.
The defendant tells Charlie Adelson that the man who approached her mentioned an ex-girlfriend. The defendant never says which ex-girlfriend of Charlie Adelson. She never says Magbanua's name to Charlie Adelson in that phone call. She only says that the blackmailer mentioned an ex-girlfriend. Charlie Adelson never asked his mom, my ex-girlfriend? Which ex-girlfriend? He's had a lot. He never asked that. Because as the evidence will show, he didn't need to. He knew the TV is probably 5 meant that she was being blackmailed about Danny's murder, where the TV was the alibi. And he knew that the ex-girlfriend in question was the only ex-girlfriend that he had solicited to find a hitman for him, Katherine Magbanua. And we know that because after this call with his mother, the defendant, Charlie Adelson, calls Katherine Magbanua. He does not call his most recent ex-girlfriend or even the one before that. He calls Katherine Magbanua. And his call to Katherine Magbanua is the only call he makes to any ex-girlfriend after getting the information from his mother that the blackmailer mentioned an ex-girlfriend. And he hadn't dated her for about 1.5 years at that point. And although they threatened to do it very often, neither Charlie Adelson nor the defendant ever reported this attempted blackmail to the police. You all will hear the calls between the conspirators, and as you listen to these, you'll notice that they're being very cautious about what they say. It's apparent that they're being very careful about the words they use because they are all immediately suspicious that law enforcement could be behind the bump. Law enforcement could be the person who came up to them on the street and gave her the paperwork. And law enforcement could also be listening to their conversations. After Charlie Adelson's first call to Katherine Magbanua, Charlie Adelson then meets up in person with his mother, the defendant. And in person, she gives him the paperwork that this blackmailer gave to her and makes it Charlie Adelson's newest problem to solve. And naturally, what does Charlie Adelson do? He goes to the next train car, Katherine Magbanua. Charlie Adelson and Katherine Magbanua meet in person at a restaurant called Dolce Vita in Miami. And while they sit at their table in this busy, noisy restaurant, an undercover FBI agent is sitting at a table nearby with a camera hidden in a bag, recording the conversation. So this is an image from that video recording the conversation. And in the recording, we hear Charlie Adelson discussing whether the man who walked up to his mother could be an undercover police officer, or he could be someone trying to legitimately blackmail them. And if it's a blackmailer, is it somebody who just saw a way to make a quick buck? Or is it another situation entirely, which would be much worse for the Adelsons? Is it actually someone with inside information about Donna Adelson's role in the murder of Dan Markell? And that person could tell police what they know. Charlie Adelson reassures Katie, Katherine Magbanua, that if it is the police, that is a good thing. Charlie Adelson thinks that, hey, if it's the police, that means the police don't have enough evidence to charge anybody. You know, they're just fishing for information. And in fact, Charlie Adelson tells her, hey, if they had any evidence, we would have already gone to the airport. It's important to note that at the time of this conversation,
Thinks that they could have evidence and still make it out of the country in like that 5-minute window.
And the only thing that police had released to the public at that point was a photo of the light-colored Prius that fled the scene. Police knew at that point that it was Garcia and Rivera who were in the Prius, but the public didn't know that yet. So that fact is interesting in light of some of the things that Charlie Adelson started saying to Magbanua. He starts giving her several analogies involving rental cars being used to commit crimes. He reassures her that the police can't prove a person committed a crime just from someone's DNA being in a car that was used in a crime. In order to prove someone committed a crime, you have to be able to put the person at the scene of the crime at the time it was committed. So he's trying to reassure her that even if they identify who rented that car that fled the scene, they still would not have enough evidence to hold anybody responsible for this murder. Charlie Adelson also says that crimes are tough to prove unless someone actually witnessed the suspect commit the
Boy, he's a
crime,
real genius at
or
committing crimes.
the suspect confesses to the crime, or a suspect is caught on a wire talking about the crime.
But he didn't know about that.
So he's trying to reassure her about the lack of evidence in this case, about no witnesses, and trying to let her know that, hey, as long as we all stay quiet and nobody confesses or gets caught talking on a wire, then we don't have anything to worry about.
This was overheard on the wire.
And he begins educating Katherine Magbanua about how blackmail works. He tells her that
make you think he's done it
this is
before?
a guy who knows information. There's 2 ways of dealing with this guy. You know, we could call the police, but then the guy blackmailing us could be charged. And then that blackmailer is going to start talking and the police are going to be asking questions about what happened.
Harvey looks good for
The other option is to pay the blackmailer, but let him know that this is just a one-time thing.
He looks like
And
Dick.
we'll try to scare him off by saying, if you come around again, we'll go to the police. Charlie Adelson gives Magbanua very
Why would that work
precise
against a
instructions
blackmailer?
on how to
You have more to
deal
lose
with
than
the
the blackmailer does.
He tells her to call the blackmailer and tell her that my friends, meaning the Adelson family, have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm just going to give you this money as charity. But don't contact these people again or they'll go to the police. And Charlie Adelson
Enjoy this
said he
charity,
would
but
give
don't come
Magbanua
back.
the $5,000 to pay off the blackmailer who approached his mother, except that he's concerned that this guy won't go away. He'll get that $5,000 and then he'll just keep coming back for more money. We'll see him as an easy target. And so Charlie Adelson then offers that the best solution might be to have the blackmailer killed and that he's willing to pay whatever it takes. He says, so help me God, if they F with my family, it's going to be Nazi shit because this will be done. I mean, Katie, I don't care what I spend. And after hearing that Charlie Adelson wants someone killed and is willing to pay whatever it takes to get it done, Magbanua then asks Charlie Adelson to help her out. And Charlie Adelson reassures her she'll be taken care of and reminds her she's on salary at the parents' dental practice. After Charlie Adelson finishes this meeting where he's getting Magbanua to then solve the problem of the blackmailer, they say goodbye. He gives her a big hug that's captured on camera outside by the FBI. And then Charlie Adelson immediately calls the defendant to let her know everything's fine and he has handled the situation. He does this using some pretty obvious code words that you'll often hear.
These stupid criminals used obvious code words.
The meaning of what they're talking about in case law enforcement's listening. Magbanua then, also using code words, calls Garcia, and she tasks him with calling the number on their paperwork and finding the identity of the blackmailer. And in the series of recorded calls that y'all are going to hear later this week, you'll hear these conspirators talking and using words like TV, relationship advice, false leads, listings, patients, properties, clients, rap songs, CDs, pigs, all these terms that are obviously normal words, but they're used in context that if you're listening to the conversation don't make sense. So after that undercover operation was over in 2016, Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia are arrested, and they're charged with the same charges before y'all in this trial. Luis Rivera, who was the second person in that Prius, cut a deal with the state and told law enforcement the truth about the murder of Dan Markel and the people responsible for it. He told police that he was hired by his longtime friend Garcia to help kill Dan Markel. Rivera described how Garcia told him that this was a job that Magbanua was able to get for them, and it was in Tallahassee, and it paid $100,000, and that Rivera was going to get a third of the money. Rivera said that during the trip to Tallahassee, Garcia had a piece of paper with a picture of the man that they were hired to kill and some handwritten notes. And during that trip, Rivera said that the first call that either of them made after the homicide was from Garcia to Magbanua, where Garcia told her that the job was done and Magbanua assured them they would get their money the next day, which they did. That Magbanua brought the money the next morning to Rivera's home. And law enforcement checked cell phone records, which corroborated Rivera's information.
The defense
Law enforcement told police that the money that he received from Magbanua the next day was packaged in a very unusual way. The money was basically in stacks of 1,000. Each stack was made up of $100 bills that were then stapled together. And after each stack was stapled together of 1,000. And after learning this from Rivera, Magbanua was arrested, and that was in October of 2016. During this trial, you'll hear that the Adelson family had access to a lot of cash because their family gave cash discounts at their dental practice. Like if you paid in cash, you would have to pay less than if you paid on a card or check. And they kept the cash that they received in stacks, and they stored it in a safe. Law enforcement also learned from Charlie Adelson's friends that Charlie Adelson had a very unusual
Bernie Madoff,
practice
or Bernie
of keeping
Sanders.
his money in these $1,000 stacks that were stapled together, just like the money Rivera received. And over the last few years, since the 2016 arrests of Garcia and Rivera in May, and then of Magbanua in October 2016, law enforcement has not stopped working on this case. 3 years after Garcia's arrest in 2019, he was convicted at his trial. Law enforcement continue, though, to gather evidence. They continue to interview people who may possibly have information and to clarify all of these recordings the FBI did that couldn't be clearly heard. And thanks to their tireless efforts, in March of 2022, Charlie Adelson was indicted. 2 months later, in May of 2022, Katherine Magbanua's case went to trial, and she was convicted. During Magbanua's trial, Katherine Magbanua took the stand, and she insisted, this is back in May of 22, she insisted she had no knowledge of the murder. The Adelsons must have just gone around her to hire the hitman directly. That's what she testified to. Her defense team insisted that the state's theory was correct about every co-conspirator except for her, for Katherine Magbanua. That Katherine Magbanua was just this victim of bloodthirsty and desperate prosecutors and investigators, and just a victim of this set of circumstances that appeared to prove one thing, but was actually, the truth was something else entirely.
With new booze.
However, after being convicted at trial and sentenced, Magbanua finally decided to testify about the plot to kill Dan Markel and admitted that she was the connection between the Adelson family and the killers hired to kill Dan Markel. Magbanua testified in Charlie Adelson's trial in October of 2023 and said that Charlie Adelson wanted to hire someone to kill his sister's ex because his mom was stressed out over all of the problems his sister was having with her ex-husband. Magbanua said Charlie painted a picture that Wendy's ex was this terrible man causing his mom so much stress that she couldn't sleep or eat. Magbanua agreed to help him and ended up recruiting her children's father, Garcia, and also Rivera to kill Dan Markel. She says that the night of the murder, she went to Charlie Adelson's house to pick up the payment for the murder. And when she arrived, Charlie Adelson said that his parents had just been at the house and that Charlie Adelson had the money for her there. Law enforcement was able to corroborate this claim with phone evidence showing that Donna Adelson went to Charlie Adelson's house the night of the murder. Magbanua then spent the night with Charlie Adelson that night, and the next morning, on July 19th, he put the money that she was to divide up into the trunk of her car. Magbanua says several things about the money stood out to her. She said it was stapled together in stacks of $100 bills and that it was damp like wet. She then delivered the money to Garcia and Rivera afterwards. When Katherine Magbanua said that when she asked Charlie Adelson about the money being damp, he said that his mother the defendant had actually washed the money, and that she and Charlie Adelson kind of laughed about the fact that the defendant had literally washed the money so it couldn't be traced. In Charlie Adelson's trial, Charlie Adelson took the stand, and he testified that Magbanua, Garcia, and Rivera were all in on this crime together, but that the Adelsons had nothing to do with it. They were the innocent ones. He crafted an elaborate story in which Garcia and Rivera came to Tallahassee on their own, killed Dan Markel without his knowledge or his family's knowledge, and then these killers colluded with Magbanua to play he and his mother for fools and extort money out of them. And for many reasons, which will be revealed to y'all in this trial, Charlie's interpretation of the facts was not reasonable to believe, and he was convicted. Charlie Adelson was convicted in November of 2023. And within hours of his guilty verdict, this defendant began to plan to flee the United States to a country that she could not be extradited from in order to avoid being arrested for Dan Markel's murder. The defendant on her phone researched countries that did not have extradition treaties with the United States, and she applied for an emergency visa to Vietnam. She was overheard planning to put her money in trust for her grandchildren, and she and her husband purchased one-way tickets with a fast-track emergency visa to Vietnam. And Vietnam does not have an extradition treaty with the U.S., as she would have learned from her searches. And just days later, she was stopped by law enforcement on the jetway in Miami International Airport, where she was boarding her one-way flight to Vietnam. And she was then charged for her participation in the murder of Dan Markel. After the defendant was charged, law enforcement received information from women who said that the defendant, Donna Adelson, was offering them bribes in exchange for false testimony in this trial. They said Donna Adelson promised them money, housing, veneers, prescription drugs, if they were willing to testify that Katherine Magbanua told them a completely different story about the crime than the one that she would be testifying to. One informant was even able to show law enforcement a script, a question and answer session for a direct examination in trial that Donna Adelson herself wrote, and that Donna Adelson wanted this informant to memorize and come into court and perjure herself by reciting it to you here in trial.
Oh. Please
listen to all of the evidence that y'all are going to see and hear in this trial. I know it's been a long week already, and we have a lot of evidence for you in this case, but when you do, you will see that this defendant conspired with her son, Charlie Adelson, who solicited his girlfriend, Katherine Magbanua, to get this murder done. And then this defendant paid her with cash, with checks for the job once it was completed. The defendant acted in furtherance of this murder plot that went beyond just thinking about it or just talking about it. And these acts make her guilty as a principal to first-degree murder, just as if she was the one pulling the trigger in the garage herself. And while the defendant's choices helped solve a problem within her family, they came at a very high price. She took the life of a loving father of 2 little boys and caused a lifetime of grief for Dan Markel's loved ones. And at the conclusion of the evidence in this case, you will be convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that this defendant is guilty. And at that point, we'll ask you for the only verdict that does justice in this case, which is a verdict that this defendant is guilty as charged. Thank you.
All right, briefly approach.
Outstanding. You're mute, John.
I think she did a great job. I think she's absolutely right. What kind of job do you think she did, Drew?
I think she did a great job. She was looping a lot of things, like meaning she'd complete a thought, like, you know, that Dan Markel was murdered by hitmen ordered by this defendant. Then in the next sentence, when this defendant ordered the hitmen who murdered Dan Markel, like, that's looping. You're just saying it over and over and over again, and just build upon that. But it's putting it in the jury's mind every time you hear it. Like, I'm misquoting what she's saying, but
No, I get it. I think it's really important, especially since the jury selection yesterday, they raised the question, do you think, you know, if someone doesn't pull the trigger, they're as guilty as the person who murders someone? And they're all like, no, that person's not as guilty. And I want to be like, hello, Charles Manson. He never even left the Spawn Ranch, and he sent out his girls to go murder all those people. They got him for first degree.
The defense gives its opening statement. We are going to take a brief break. The bailiff will take you to the jury room.
They're going to take a break. Drew, I wanted to ask you, third-party culprit, probably what they're going to go with. There's some way of deflecting blame. With Charlie, it was this whole thing of we were extorted. What I want to know what your guesses are going to be in terms of what will the story be for Donna? Was she, you know, because Charlie already tried the extortion thing and it didn't work. How are they going to try to paint all this evidence so that it means something else?
I don't know. I
have no fucking clue how he's going to take what you just heard and make it seem like, without disputing any of the evidence as fact. I hate to say this, but like,
the observers need to use the restroom, please do so at this point, so that way when the defense is ready, we can continue moving on seamlessly. We'll resume again at 10:20.
Okay, so 5 minutes from now. I hate to say this, but when he was talking yesterday to the jury in jury selection, he was talking about how law enforcement officers could make a mistake. Is he going to try to set up that the FBI and the police completely misunderstood? You know,
he would be an absolute fool if he did that.
Because, well, what else could he go with?
Yeah, because don't they have on the witness list? I think they have the FBI agents from Charlie's trial anyway.
Yeah.
There's nothing else he could go. The only thing that I could think is that they're going to try to paint her as the grandmother who loved the grandchildren so much that she was so desperate. And that's just to mitigate her sentence, if anything. I mean, she's, it astonishes me. Like, what wiggle room did the state leave? There is no wiggle room whatsoever. None.
There is a convenient target, though. What you could do is you could cut your losses. Charlie's already been convicted of this. At this point, as much as it, you know, probably won't make their future Thanksgivings that nice, you could put it all on Charlie and say Charlie's the one that did this. You know, Charlie's the one who was all the times you didn't hear us. This is what Charlie was telling me to do. This was Charlie's idea. And maybe she can get out of first degree murder and kind of maybe hope to get some kind of lesser offense with hope for getting out at some point. Drew, how does it work there in Florida? Has she been charged with only first degree, so it's all or nothing? Or
I gotta look. I'm gonna have to look at the.
I know she was charged with first degree murder, solicitation of first degree murder, and conspiracy to commit first degree murder. I don't think second degree is even on the table. So I'm wondering how it works in Florida. If they're able to, you know, maybe proffer that as a charge later, or
that's going to come in the jury. And I don't think I don't think the lesser included offense or I don't think that's on the table. But I could be completely wrong.
Well, I guess they could get her on conspiracy or solicitation and let her skate on the actual first degree murder.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what the lawyer's trying to do, is that she just wasn't soliciting murder, that she wasn't conspiring to commit murder. And that's Donna Adelson's hope for not dying behind bars, is that she can get some kind of, 10 years in prison with parole or something like that.
It's her only chance. But
then you have to buy it. But then you have to kind of tacitly admit to the conspiracy. How do you control that narrative to where you could say Donna was involved with solicitation and Donna was involved in conspiracy, but Donna was not involved in the actual first degree murder? At that point, you basically just have to tell the jury that whatever the judge is about to explain to you in terms of what the law means and how to apply it isn't what you should do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, these conspiracy, like, it's going to be very easy to you can't get around the conspiracy part. You're never going to get around the conspiracy part, and the principle is just like the same statute as the conspiracy, basically. But I think that's why they're hammering so much, or they're trying to educate the jury so much on what a principle is. And like they used the example yesterday of, okay, well, if you're watching your favorite football team, obviously not the Dallas Cowboys because they used a touchdown in this example, but the quarterback drops back and throws, and the wide receiver catches it in the end zone.
Well, I'm just glad the analogy wasn't kicking a field goal or an extra point, because otherwise we couldn't use the Buffalo Bills either. So,
and it's in the end zone, so it's a touchdown. So, is the quarterback responsible for the touchdown, or is the wide receiver part of the touchdown? Or is the line blocking for the quarterback responsible for? They're all principles to it. They're all part of the scheme. It's not a conspiracy to commit touchdown, but they all were in on it.
If it was, Tampa Bay would not be convicted.
You're just just throwing jabs in the air at any team that I'm associated with, and that's not welcome. It's understood.
It's not my fault you have two favorite football teams, so that you paid a broader target. It makes no sense.
Hold on a second. I am typing something out so I can get an answer.
Pascaline had a good question though earlier. She wanted to know why Georgia Kappelman's not giving the opening statements. It's because Georgia can't be tasked with doing everything. Prosecuting this murder is a huge undertaking. And with so there's certain key points that are going to be really, really, really important. Georgia Kappelman's really good at examining, cross-examining. And it's not that opening statements aren't important. They certainly are. But your opening statements is when you're just telling the jury, this is what you're going to find out. This is what the case is. Kind of, we've danced around it for days at jury selection. We've asked you a lot of questions, kind of leading questions that kind of apply a lot to see how you feel about these things. But like, this is essentially what our case is going to be. This is what we're going to set out and prove. That's not the actual proving part. Like, everything that you just heard, Pascaline, was not considered testimony. It's not considered evidence. As clear and convincing as it was for me and for you, the jury can't make their decision based off of that. They have to go off of what comes next. And so Georgia can have her co-chair go out there and explain essentially what the story is of Donna Adelson and Dan Markell. And it doesn't take much to tell a story. I mean, I think she certainly did do a good job, but it doesn't have to be convincing. Georgia, in other words, this other prosecutor is going to set him up, and Georgia Kappelman's going to knock him down. It's going to be a two-team 1-2 punch. And so they're delegating tasks. They're sorting out who can do what. And in fairness, it was this same attorney, unless I'm mistaken, that set up the conviction of Charlie Adelson. So she's not bad at this.
Yeah, Sarah Dugan, I think her name is.
Sarah Dugan, thank you. And, considering that it's early in the morning and no one should be awake at this hour, I think she did a very good job of going out there and essentially explaining the trial and a lot of really, really important parts of it, not just what happened before, but Donna's attempts to flee the country, All of those things are things that were not in effect for Charlie. Think about it. With Charlie, they had far less to go on, but because of the way this prosecutor's office is doing things, every single time they convict somebody, they add a little bit more to the story. This, Donna trying to flee and get away to Vietnam adds a whole other layer of suggestive culpability. She knew she was next because she knew that she was involved. And so we saw Harvey there. Harvey's looking very, very, very grumpy. I don't know how that doesn't turn into a meme, at least in the true crime community. He looks very, very unhappy. But you have to wonder what's next. And I think convicting Donna, and I think there's going to be things that come out in this trial that we haven't heard about. Because Drew, I'm sure you'll back me up on this, but in a criminal investigation, even one that's 11 years old, or even especially one that's 11 years old, we don't let all the cats out of the bag. We don't tell everyone everything. Yes, a lot of the evidence about how Dan Markel died has had to come out in order to convict Katherine Magbanua and Charlie Adelson and Sigfredo and Luis Rivera for their parts in it. But there's going to be stuff here that specifically involves Donna and Charlie, and if they didn't need it to convict Charlie, it stayed in the bag. And so we have no idea what's going to come out. And the reason why I mention that is that stuff could come out here that could be suggestive of Wendi. I know that Drew doesn't think that they're gonna do the complete sandbagging where they have her come out and testify against her mom and come and scoop her up later. But just for the sake of being salacious, I'm going to say that's exactly what's going to happen.
Refresh your feed and make sure that it's because there were circles running a second ago. She's not going to be able to testify for the defense. That's already been ruled. If we got to switch to court TV, that's fine too.
It looks like it's still live at the bottom. The ticker's still going at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
I'll switch. I'll bring up court TV and look at it just to make sure we don't miss it.
No, I'll do it too. But so Wendi can't testify on the defense's behalf because they can't offer her any
immunity.
Plead the fifth the entire time.
Right.
The anything she says in her testimony, she has like a use immunity for testifying on behalf of the state because they want her to be truthful and tell her part of the story that she knows about their defendant. So they cannot use that against her in a trial against her, which is another reason I'm apt to believe they don't have.
Well, but it also would set a huge precedence not only for the Leon County District Attorney's Office, but in the relations between, defense lawyers and prosecutors throughout the country. This deal's in place with this, with this limited immunity for her testimony. If they turn their back on Wendi, no one's ever going to take this deal ever again because right. It would show the world like, well, they can make deals for immunity for you and then they'll turn their back on you later. And so it would help you get Wendi for the murder of her husband, but it would completely destroy your ethical and professional credibility with ever trying to use the same tactic ever again.
It's the same thing as in like using informants, or like I used to teach. I handled informants for years, but I used to also teach handling informants. I've been through, DEA advanced schools and the advanced school and informant handling and everything. And what you're saying is exactly right. It's 100% correct, because your reputation for handling informants, keeping their anonymity, keeping them clean, the whole 9 yards, it all rests on how you handle them, obviously. But if you expose them to being discovered and one, something happens to them, or two, they end up having to testify in a manner they didn't want to testify in or whatever, you have no reputation with them, and you're never going to get anybody else to work for you. Right. And that's why I used to say all the time how the defense attorneys were my friends, because first of all, you can, have a conversation with the defense attorney and they can talk sense into their client for you. One, but two, we had a great relationship with the defense attorneys because they were working the defendant aspect, but they also knew how screwed they were. So they would turn them to us like, hey, I'm going to set up a meeting with this.
Set up at this point? Yes, sir. All right.
Here we
Any
go.
further clarification needed about what was discussed at sidebar? Not at all, Your Honor. All right, very good.
What will the defense say? How can they spin this?
Coming right back in, so it's probably going to be some pop goes the weasel, musical chairs, whatever your variation is of that.
I have the feeling it's going to be a lot of it was all Charlie, it was all Charlie, it was all Charlie, and that it was for the love of her grandkids.
Yeah.
And this is just a simple grandmother trying to keep her daughter out of trouble and trying to keep her son out of trouble and her husband out of trouble.
We also have to acknowledge the fact that sometimes pleading not guilty and having your defense lawyer go to bat for you is not about getting off. Like there's no way to get out of the situation. It's about getting fair representation. It's about making sure all your rights are exercised. And it's about keeping a hand on the wheel of that crashing bus, like just making sure that you don't get the harshest deal possible. Right. But also, you know, if you plead guilty, you know, you're just taking whatever you're going to be given by the judge or whatever. There's no reason for you not to plead guilty. There's no reason for you not to make the state fight for it. There's no reason to lay down your rights and just take it. So Donna may not be going into this trial. She may not be sitting here right now with any kind of suspension of disbelief that she's ever going to walk free again, but she has to exercise those rights and work in her own best interest and do everything that she can. I do love this judge. I'm not sure what we're waiting on here.
I think they're waiting on the jury to come back in. But so
they should just go without him.
Who is your bet that is going to deliver this opening statement for the defense?
I think it's that horrible lawyer that I saw yesterday. He's going to come out now. I'm just a small town country lawyer from Tennessee, and they sure did use a lot of big words like murder and conspiracy.
Like his suspender.
But back where I'm from, grandmas were about apple pie.
I think
Cracker Barrel before they changed the sign. You know?
I think that when they had Grandpa in there, they're trying to eliminate Grandma, just like in the Cracker.
Now let me ask you this: do you love your grandmas?
Second, I think that they're going to put the older woman up to kind of relate to the.
You think so?
Grandmotherly aspect. I don't know. So you'll know.
The bathroom will be a thing throughout the trial.
He thinks everything's kind of funny, doesn't he?
Regarding the question of lesser included offenses, Florida law does allow for this option in criminal trials. Lesser included offense is a crime that's less serious, but is inherently part of the more serious crime charged. And for a jury to consider that, the elements of the lesser crime must be a subset of the elements of the greater crime. So when you're talking about a lesser included offense, and you're talking about the difference, I'm trying to sort this out, between first-degree murder and second-degree murder, I think would be the premeditation part.
Yeah, but they didn't put up second degree, so
that's what I'm saying. Like, but if they proved a lesser included offense okay, so first-degree murder includes A, B, C, D, and E, and second-degree murder is just A, B, C, and D. So if they have proven beyond a reasonable doubt A, B, C, and D, they have a second-degree murder conviction. I don't know that that's on the table for this case. I think it's all or nothing, and I don't see how. I'm like I said, I'm trying to sort this through my head, and I probably sound like an idiot, but that's fine. That's not the first time. But it's still not gonna. All of the, like a conspiracy or a principal charge is generally just 1 degree lower. So if it's first degree murder, which could be the death penalty, but it's not in this case, or minimum life, the next lower would be, I think it's like 30 years minimum mandatory sentence.
Yeah.
For the conspiracy itself, it's 30 years. And then for the principal, it's 30 years. So we're talking about life plus 30 plus 30 in these. I think this is probably why the state's strategy is to look. All we have to do is prove that he was murdered, there was premeditation, and that she was involved in it. Like both feet in, and they have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that she's responsible for a first-degree murder. I mean, like I may have oversimplified it, but.
Well, I just don't think you could thread the needle. I don't think that you can prove that she was a part of the conspiracy or part of the solicitation and not get the full first degree. I think that's why they didn't even put the second degree on the table, because they knew the jury would take pity on Donna. That the fact that almost any time they give her is going to result in her dying behind bars. And so that's why they didn't even put it on there. It's everything or nothing for Donna. And I think that they feel like their case is strong enough that they can prove that she was soliciting, that she was she was part of the conspiracy. I mean, these tapes that they're going to hear, the stuff that we've been playing at Comm Center the last 8 or 9 weeks, they're all going to hear this stuff. And, you and I used to go back and forth about whether or not Karen Reed was guilty. And we certainly argued and went back and forth about Hannah Payne, which was much less complicated. That wasn't even a conspiracy.
Right.
But you and I have had no talks about whether or not Donna was actually involved in this at all. From the moment the bump occurred, and she seemed to not be confused, and then she immediately reached out and did what the bump was supposed to do. Talking to Charlie. Charlie talks to Katherine Magbanua. Katherine Magbanua talks to Sigfredo. I mean, it worked perfectly, and it showed to anyone with any reason that it could only be that she was involved.
Is the defense prepared to give its opening statement at this time?
All she would have had to do is read what's on that paper, and that would have shown, I have no idea what this is about. But the minute she shielded it.
Look at that limb.
Oh, she should have used a walker.
Jackie Fulford and I, along with Mr. Zellman, represent Mrs. Adelson, and I don't think you've heard my voice yet.
Southern accent.
I'm going to try and talk slow because if I don't, the court reporter.
She's doing it. I'm just a small town country lawyer.
I just want to start by saying this. Remember, during the course of the proceedings, that the state always gets to go first, but the defense has a right to be heard too. So please keep an open mind until you hear from us as well. You just sat through an opening statement. The presentation was pretty cool. I'm old-fashioned, so I don't use that kind of stuff. But
I'm an old town country lawyer.
for an hour, you heard about this killing. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And you heard an awful lot about why they think Donna Adelson has the motive to kill Danny Markell. And you heard an awful lot about what other people did in this case. But not a single piece of evidence was discussed that shows that Donna Adelson planned this, hired anybody to do this, or intended that this happen.
It's not the evidence round,
ma'am. Be
ma'am.
mindful that when we're at the end of the case and the judge gives you the instructions, and he gives them, I won't do that. When he gives you the instructions, he's not going to give you an instruction that says the state has to prove motive. He's going to give you elements of each offense, and he's going to say,
Because they know she has all the
each
motive.
element of each offense has to have actual evidence to prove that. Not motive, actual evidence that those things happened.
She hasn't been watching
We're going
our
to have a long trial, and I know you all are kind of prepared for that, at least in your minds. You know it's going to happen, and it's going to be long, and we're going to have days. And you're going to hear a lot of evidence and phone calls and text messages and emails.
A lot of boring
But
stuff,
I want
folks.
to ask you to never, ever stop thinking for the 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks that we're here about why it is we are really here. Not just because Donna Adelson is on trial, but because 2 men killed Danny Markell.
Oh, see, there it is.
Don't forget, Danny.
Blaming them.
He was an amazing professor. He was very well educated.
Good father, right, Donna?
2 degrees, I think, from Harvard, one of them from law school there. He was a professor He had students. He was very well respected by his peers, his colleagues.
Not his family, though.
He traveled all over the place to talk at conferences.
And that was used
They
against
wanted
him as a
there
bad dad.
for him to
Yeah.
come and speak. Very, very intelligent man. And I can't say I know because I never met him. I wish I had.
But Donna killed him.
But I know he had to be proud of all that he had achieved. It was his career was important to him. Him continuing to educate himself so that he could get tenure at the law school as a professor. He worked very hard. He earned a lot. What he did not earn was for somebody to do this to him. You're going to hear that Wendi Adelson, the daughter of my client, was married to Danny. And I'm not trying to be informal when I say that. I respect Mr. Markell, Dr. Markell, but because so many people in the trial are going to refer to him as Danny, I'm going to do that if that's okay.
It's
But I
not.
don't mean any disrespect by doing that.
I don't mean any respect.
More important,
Freudian slip.
Danny Markell
I think
than
she's really
anything in
trying
the
to
world
win
were his little
the
boys.
10 males and 2 females
He had
over as
2
the mom.
little children.
So they
This
see
happened to him.
Donna as their mom.
A 3-year-old and a 4-year-old.
And it would work to a degree, but
the divorce first happened,
she still killed
Wendi
him.
moved out. He did not want the divorce. That was in 2012. And they squabbled during the divorce. They did. Each side argued for their side. The other side argued for their side. That's what happens to divorce. Divorce is not fun. Divorce is not usually friendly. Some of us have had friendly divorces, but not everybody does. And a lot of things were said. But moving forward to 2014,
It's got to kill the
where we're gonna
Markells to watch
concentrate
this.
on
I
because
know.
that's
Every time,
when
dude.
Danny was killed.
This is the 4th
And in
time.
2014, with these little
fifth.
boys that he had,
Fourth?
the divorce had been over for a year. Relocation, the opportunity, even discussion about it, ended. On July 31st, when the final judgment was entered, relocation was over. The state told you that. The court denied it with prejudice. She could never raise it again. Nobody was fighting anymore.
Dude, she's
about
making
where
the
these little boys
she's
would be.
making the argument that she's strengthening
Danny
the motive.
advocated for not only himself in the divorce, he advocated for his children. They are an important part of his life. He wanted as much time as he could get with them.
And we could
They
never
ended
forgive
up
those 2
splitting the
Latin
time
kings for
equally
killing
between
Danny.
Wendi and Danny. Their schedules changed a little bit on how they worked that out, but it was 50%. This bug is driving me crazy too. What in the world is that? Sorry. He continuously,
It's Satan. Like,
from the time Wendi moved out till the time that he was killed, spent as much time as he could get with his children. He loved being with them. If it wasn't his time to have the children, he would go to their little preschool and spend time
All
with
of
them
this is
there.
about trying to say that Donna
wanted
never
to
had a
talk to him on the
problem
phone
with
as much as
Danny
he
having
could.
custody of the kids, which is not
You
true.
guys are way younger than me, so maybe you don't even know
Danny
about this,
welcomed
but
her
I
with
guess there
open
was a thing
arms
called
to his
Skype. I don't
home
even know
and
if it
how
still
they got
exists, but
along.
I guess it's like FaceTiming, but doing it on your computer. And that's how he wanted to talk to his kids, so that he could see them when he wasn't with them while he spoke to them. Now, at 3 and 4, it's kind of hard to wrangle them to sit down in front of a screen. So Danny came up with a really good idea. When he Skyped the children, it would be most of the time after the kids had had their dinner and had their baths, where they're kind of calmed down. They're not in their little running around state. And he would read bedtime stories to them. And he didn't have his little kids. He still wanted to know that when the children went to bed,
Oh my Lord.
they didn't forget about Daddy.
Oh
And he
my
made sure
Lord.
that didn't happen.
This is disgusting.
And my client
These kids are not deprived
took him
of their
from the
father.
world.
Their father was brutally taken from them. Not just when they were 3 or 4,
By Donna.
or 5 or 6, or 7 or 8, but up into their teens. They lost the opportunity because someone took it from them to grow up with a father, to
Donna.
have his involvement and influence in their lives to talk about what
They're
he
trying
did
to
as a
paint
kid and
Donna as
share
a
his
vicarious victim
experiences.
because she's grandma
All
to
of
these
that
boys.
was stolen from him. That's very important.
Donna's not a
This
victim.
Skyping that he did with his kids, Mrs. Adelson, when she had the little boys,
He's breathing kind of
actually
heavy.
arranged so she could do that with him.
I don't know
And
if
she would keep the kids in
a
front
function
of
of
the
the
screen
bench that
while
he's
he
sitting
talked
on.
to his children. You've heard a lot about how she hated him. She said some ugly things during the divorce. Pretty foul things, actually.
This is
You're
called
gonna
getting in
learn from
front
the
of it.
evidence why that was occurring
Right.
and how she was actually interacting with Danny. They're two very different things. I want to talk to you now about my client, Donna Adelson. She is a normal person, just like all of us.
No, I have
At
not.
the time that this happened, she was 64 years old, married to her husband, Dr. Adelson, a dentist. Now they've been married 54 years. It was somewhere in the 40-year range when this happened 11 years ago. And she got up in the morning and went to work, not at her and Harvey's business, like you were just told. She went to the business owned by her son. Every morning they got up and they went to work. She did the books, she kept the books, she greeted patients, she got charts out. At 7:30 every morning, she was there and organized and had everybody ready to go because they had a little staff meeting. So everybody could know what to expect, what patients they were going to see, what they were going to take care of. She was there working, sometimes late into the evening, just like all of us. She's a normal person. People who know Donna will tell you that she is not the person that the state is portraying her to be.
Ha!
She's kind,
Let's hear Donna in her own words.
caring,
Gibbers.
loving.
5-part
She
plan
thinks
to make
more about
Danny
people
mad.
than she does about herself.
Yeah, using Jesus against those boys.
Put them in a little suit and put them in front of the Catholic Church.
Fuck
Now,
this
what
lady.
happened on
to my
July the
new
18th of 2014? You've heard the state describe it, but I want to talk about it for a minute.
I hope those emails make it in.
I'm sure they will.
The state is going to be able to prove to you some of the things they were talking about.
What is this nonsense? I don't like it. I don't like tomfoolery, Drew.
I don't either.
Can everybody see it okay?
I cannot.
No? Oh,
It is the range of evil. Just raise your hands and everyone can see the evil clearly. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. So the state told you that he got up every day, just like he normally did, on July the 18th of 2014. And I just want to say this also. Throughout the trial, you may hear me say that he was murdered on that day. Somehow he survived for another 11 hours.
Oh my Lord.
In my opinion, all the evidence is going to show that what killed him took place on the 18th, and he was just able to survive long enough into the next day.
She has a picture board.
So on that date, July 18th of
Like one of
2014,
Donna's classes made it.
these two men, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera.
But that's all intentional, though. They
Followed
wanted to
him
go with the downtrodden
all over
underdog
town.
thing.
Started at his house, followed him.
She might as well have
to the
mustard on her blouse from
school where
breakfast.
The little children were going to school, preschool, where he dropped them off.
What is she eating at
Watched
breakfast
him
with?
drop those kids
I don't
off,
know. Jelly
followed
jam.
him to the gym, waited outside the gym for him, followed him to his house, pulled up in the driveway.
Look
Mr.
at how none of
Martel
those
is
arrows are
talking
pointing
on
to
his
Donna
cell
like they
phone
should be.
to someone,
It's
and he notices
Look at Georgia.
someone's coming into his driveway.
She's pissed.
She's like, is this
And while he's
serious?
talking on the phone and says something about needing to see who this is, He turns and looks in the direction. And this man, Sigfredo Garcia, is holding a revolver. And he points it at him. And you may hear testimony that there's some evidence that maybe he tried to, well, you know what you do in defense when somebody's going to hit you or whatever, you put your hands up. He saw this man pointing a gun similar to this at him. And in that instant, I cannot fathom how terrified he must have been when this man shot him. Not one time, but twice.
She was a judge.
One of the shots is almost right between the eyes. He was brutally murdered by this man. This man, Luis Rivera, who you've heard them mention in the state's opening, traveled with this car. This is an actual picture of the car, and the state's going to show it to you. This is the Prius that they were traveling in. This is surveillance photo that the investigators were able to find to know that it was a Prius that they were looking for. This man supplied the gun and drove the car following Danny, drove it up into the driveway less than 3 feet away from Mr. Markell, whose engine is still running, and he's on the phone, and he waits while this man kills him. He hears the shots. This guy, Mr. Garcia, runs back to the car where Mr. Rivera is in the driver's seat, and he's the getaway driver. Supplies the gun, knows what they're going there to do, kill him, and drive off. They drive off. The state can prove that about Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera. But they're not on trial here, right? You heard they've already been on trial.
We've already done the justice of
state
convicting
said
the people
that
really
they can
responsible.
prove that- everybody can see okay? They can prove that Katie Magbanua, her name's Katherine, some people call her Katie, they can prove that she's the one who set it up. This is the father of Katie's children. This is his buddy that was recruited to go along on this trip to kill Danny. They can prove that she arranged these guys to do it and that she's the one who paid them the money that was in stacks, stapled, $100 bills, all $100, well, there may have been something other than $100 bills, but each stack was $1,000 stapled together. And you're going to hear testimony that that's exactly what he did with his money. He kept it and saved it for a long time. And you're probably going to hear testimony that this happens on July 18th, and on July the 19th, Mr. Adelson, Charlie Adelson, which is her son, gave approximately
He's getting
between
blamed too.
$130,000 and $138,000 that he had in his safe that he collected and stapled together. His money went to her, not Miss Adelson. They can prove and have that he paid her to get them to kill Danny Markell.
So Donna's just not even
That's
on
what
that
they
board,
can
is she?
And they've done it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. This case is really a lot about theory and motive and not evidence. The state has a theory, and for the past 9 to 11 years, in fairness, probably 9 years, they have told the whole world that Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. They've told this story, and it's outrageous. It gets people's attention. It's made a lot of money for the media, interviews, specials. Some people in jury selection said they had watched these specials. Lawyers on there, investigators on there. They made a lot of money for the media, and it got big attention because this is outrageous, what happened. It is truly outrageous. But what's more outrageous is, without any evidence only motive and theory. They put her at the top of this pyramid. She's the matriarch. She's the matriarch mastermind behind Danny being killed. And they don't have evidence of that. That's what's outrageous. It's outrageous that he got killed, but it's also outrageous that we're sitting here with a jury and you're going to hear a lot of theory, a lot of motive, and a lot of what they believe the evidence means. They don't get to decide that. The evidence is what the evidence is. And I ask you to patiently sit here and really pay attention to all of the evidence that you hear, every witness that they put on, every piece of evidence that they present to you, all of it. Don't, for 1 second, I'm not asking you to ignore any of that. Please listen to all of it closely. Look for what they actually have as evidence that Mrs. Adelson planned. She planned Danny Markel's murder, that she engaged these men to kill him, and that she gave the money to her son to give to Katie to pay them. You won't find evidence of that. The evidence about the $3,000 a month, I have that here on this board, $3,000 a month. Charlie Adelson gave $2,000 a month, and he instructed his mother, for reasons you're going to learn in the trial, out of his business account to put her on payroll. She worked for him and she paid that money.
So what about Harvey Adelson's car going to Katherine Magbanua?
In the tits.
And the tits.
At the end,
I love how we have a
listening to
detective for
all of the
29
evidence,
years here to
we're
add
gonna
his
have an
expertise, and he
opportunity
says,
to
and
make
don't forget the
closing
tits.
arguments. And the judge is then going to give you, well, he's going to give it before, he's going to give you all of the instructions on what it is that you have to decide. Did the state charge and then prove that Mrs. Adelson committed a conspiracy? Not one of the elements, all of the elements, proven by evidence, not theory, not motive. For each count, then solicitation, all the elements. So while you're listening to the evidence, you don't know what those elements are, but think about what each thing it is that the state has alleged. She planned it. She got people to do it. She intended that he die.
That's their defense.
This woman wanted to take away the father of her grandchildren for the rest of their life
That's
because of relocation.
No.
that
We just wanted
happened
them.
a year ago and
We
was
wanted him
done and over. And at the end of the case, because there's not going to be evidence that she did this, keep an open mind.
What about the tits?
Listen to all of it. We're going to ask you to find her not guilty of every single count. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fulford. Zeldin, if you could take down the easels at this time.
I don't dislike her, John.
Is the
I'm
state
sorry.
prepared to call its first witness?
Do you want to keep going, Drew?
It's up to you.
I wouldn't mind just talking a little bit about.
Yeah, go for it. James Geiger is the 911 caller, though.
Oh, well, let's listen to him then. Well, they're going to play the 911 audio. It seems only fair.
Yeah. Seems like it's relevant to the channel.
Seems like it could be a good idea.
Or no, is he the
Do they call Geiger? Because I mean, 911's a great place to start. Every great true crime story starts with a 911 phone call.
and it's live validation, John.
I mean, I've often said the best true crime story starts with a crime, but
it's look at him.
oh, poor old guy.
Oh man. I just adore this guy. I got to be honest. Like, this is everybody's grandfather. I've never had a grandfather. This would be the perfect grandfather.
Geiger, please raise your right hand to be sworn, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about
Oh,
to
it's
give
hearing
will
aids.
be the truth? Yes. You may take your seat. Please speak loudly and clearly for the jurors.
Now, this is a grandfather.
Okay, examine the
This poor guy, man.
Yes, sir. Perfect. Thank you. Please say your name and spell your name.
My name is James Geiger, Geiger.
Sir, where do you live?
I live at 2122
Truscott.
How long have you lived at that residence?
It's getting pretty close to 50 years now, I think 48 or 49.
All right. I want to take you back to July 18th of 2024. Now I've got an ad on me. Do you recall something unusual that happened that day? I'm sorry, I said 2024, 2014, sir. You know what case we're here about. Do you remember what happened on that date?
Yes, I do.
All right. Could you please tell our jurors how something unusual first got your attention?
It was a Friday morning, about 10:30. My wife and I were sitting in our living room looking out towards Trescott Drive out to the street. And as we were sitting there, we were doing something with our iPads.
He remembers it
and we
forever.
heard a noise, a popping, loud sound, bang sound. And we immediately got up and walked to the front. We have a big picture window. Walked up to see if we could determine what had happened and where it had come from. We weren't sure it was to the right or to the left. And
All right, let me pause you right there and show you a couple photographs that I have as marked as states 1, 2, and 3.
Dude, the jury has just got to be eating this up. I mean, like, it's an intriguing story in the opening statement that she told. The first witness they put on is this guy.
Do you recognize these photographs,
yes,
sir?
I do.
Are these fair and accurate photographs of your residence?
He
at
definitely
that
then does
time,
the whole
as well as
grandma
the view
thing.
from the window you
Yeah, I
described?
mean, is there any
Yes,
credible in this guy?
Judge, at this time I asked to admit 1 through 3 and publish.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
States 1 through 3 are admitted.
I hate to say this, but when you get a shot of the defense table again, you could see from left to right, it's
Could
kind of like
publish states 1, please.
the 3 women sitting there is like before, during, and after. You'll see what I mean in a second. Like, you won't be able to unsee it.
All right, sir. So if you could just explain, give me that pointer, please. What we're looking at in this photo, and I've got a pointer here. If that's of any assistance to you, push the middle button, you get a red dot. You don't have to use it. Oh, if you are going to use it, though, use it on the big screen, please, sir. All right, so just describe what we're looking at in this photo, states 1.
This is taken from Trescott Drive. The house on the right is my house, and the house on the left was Danny's house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the bay window that you've described, is that what is pictured in this portion of the photo right here? Yes, sir.
That's correct.
So publish states 2, please. Sir, is this the view from that window?
Yes,
All
this
right.
is what I saw as I looked out.
Okay, and the driveway that we can see there on the right side of the window, is that Dan Markell's driveway?
Yes, it is.
All right, so you've described that something got your attention. Can we have states 3, please?
Well, as I mentioned, I wasn't sure where the noise had come from, and I looked to the left and to the right, and as I looked to the right, there was a car that was rapidly backing out of the driveway and immediately headed down in that direction towards Benton Road. It caught my attention because it seemed to be going so fast. And I noticed what it looked like, and that caught my attention. Although,
Great
quite
witness.
frankly, it was out of the corner of my
Yeah.
eye. It appeared
He's the
to
one
be
that
a
first identified the
a
Prius.
light-colored Prius,
Yeah.
maybe silver or white.
Okay, so something got your attention. What was that?
Well, that was what got my attention. And then
Was the vehicle itself?
Excuse me?
Was the vehicle itself or some noise preceded you seeing the vehicle?
Well, initially, we had heard this loud noise, which we weren't exactly sure it was. It could have been a gunshot. We weren't sure. And then when I saw the car back out, that prompted me then to walk next door. There had been in the neighborhood a few break-ins, burglaries, and my first thought was that somebody was trying to break into the Markel house. And so I went out the front door and walked across over to Danny's house to see if anything had been damaged, maybe tried to be broken into the garage or something.
Yes, sir. When you looked out, you said you saw the car back out and then exit toward Benton Road. Would that be going this direction to the right of the photograph or toward the left of the photograph?
It would be towards the right.
So out this way. And you said you walked over there just to sort of look around, make sure everything was okay. What did you see?
As I approached his garage, I noticed that the garage door was open. His car was inside and the motor was running. And so I thought then, well, I guess so much for a burglary. I don't think that's happened if Danny's there. So I turned around and walked back to my house.
Okay. What happened next?
After that, I can't tell you why, but I just stood at my front window and looked out and waited for a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4, up to 5. And for some reason, it just didn't quite seem right. Danny hadn't backed out. And I thought by this time he should have backed out of his driveway, and he didn't. And so I said to my wife, I think something just seems wrong. I'm going to walk back over. And so I did that.
All right. And what did you see when you got over there?
Excuse me?
What did you see when you got over there the second time?
Well, when I went back the second time, I noticed that the garage door was still up. The car was still running. And this time I thought, maybe I better walk on into the garage. He's probably in the driver's seat. He's probably on the cell phone talking, but I just wanted to make sure everything was okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
so I walked into the actual driveway then, and I saw that the window, the driver's side window, had been shattered, and I stepped on glass at that same time. As I looked inside, I saw a bloody head, and the head was slowly moving back and forth, rolling back and forth, left to right. And I hollered immediately, "Danny, what happened?" And I didn't get any response other than the head rolling. And so I hollered again, Danny, what's happened?" Still nothing. And at that point, I knew that I had to get the emergency medical team there as quickly as I
He
could.
needs no prompting
I
or
reached into my
anything. He knows
pocket
the
to
story
pull out
so
my
well.
Cell phone, which is where I
I'll-
normally
If you
keep it. And it wasn't there. And I thought, gee, I've left
Trials
it back
get
on the
back.
couch at the house. So I quickly dashed back to the house, got the phone, and called 911.
How many minutes do you estimate elapsed between the time you saw the Prius backing out, or really I should say the time you heard the loud bang, to the time that you were able to reach 911?
Less than 10 minutes, more than 5 minutes, somewhere in there, I would say.
I'm going to approach and show you what I've marked as State's Exhibits 4, and then I also have 6 and 7. This is number 4, and I'll draw your attention to some initials on number 4, and then also 6 and 7.
Mhm.
Do you recognize these photos?
Yes, I do.
All right, Judge, at this time, I'd ask to move into evidence 6 and 7.
Any objection?
No objection.
States 6 and 7 are admitted.
Publish State 6, please.
You may.
Sir, is this how the vehicle was positioned when you went over there and found Mr. Markel so badly injured?
Yes, that looks correct.
Publish State 7, please. closed? The doors to the vehicle are open in this photograph. Were they open or closed when you went over?
No, they were all closed.
Okay, closed, and the only window that was damaged was that the driver's side window?
That's the only one I saw. That's, if there were some others, I didn't look at any other windows. I just simply saw the driver's side that was completely shattered.
Yes, sir. And State's Exhibit 4, is this consistent with the type of vehicle that you observed in the driveway backing out that day?
Yes, it was, although I didn't quite see that angle.
Okay. Judge, at this time, I'd ask to introduce State's 4.
Objection, States 4.
Admitted at this time.
All right, and you described it as a light-colored Prius. You weren't exactly sure of the color, maybe white, maybe silver, right?
Yeah, silver came to mind first, I guess, but certainly a light colored vehicle.
I'm gonna approach and show you State's Exhibit 5. Recognize State's 5?
Yes,
Is that Mr. Markel?
yes, it is.
All right, may I introduce State's 5, Your Honor?
Objection.
States 5 is admitted.
Publishing State's 5. What did you know about Mr. Markel?
Well, this occurred in 2014, and Danny and Wendi were newlyweds and had moved in about 5 years earlier than that. They moved next door. We were not particularly close to either one. We would see them occasionally out on the street. The memorable thing, and the other neighbors would tell you, is that when they first moved in, they had a housewarming event and they invited all the neighbors in, and we attended it. That was our first time to see them and visit them. They
Definitely
seemed
have a
like young
housewarming,
couple,
everyone.
but after that, we weren't particularly close.
Did they have a couple little children living there?
Well, when they first moved there, they didn't, but after a year or two, they had a first child and then later a second child.
All right, and at the time that Mr. Markel was shot, had his wife, Wendi, moved out? Had they separated?
Yeah, we had understood that they were going through a divorce, and Wendi had left, and after that, we rarely saw Danny, and I don't think we ever saw the kids either, but
Were you familiar with Mr. Markel's profession?
yes, I knew that he was an attorney. Both of them were, and they were connected with the FSU Law School, I believe, but I didn't know their exact positions there.
Yes, sir. Publish 4 again, please. Are you able to tell the jurors anything about the occupants of this vehicle on that day?
No, I only saw it just briefly, and to notice what kind of car it was, I couldn't tell you.
That in
who was
itself is a
inside.
feat, by the way.
The
Yeah.
windows were dark as far as I could see. I didn't even know if it was 2-door or 4-door. I just didn't see anything like that.
During the time that you were present at the scene of the shooting, did Mr. Markel ever regain consciousness or ever say anything that you heard?
No, I never heard him say anything. The only notion was that his head kept rolling back and forth during the 911 call, which it took forever to try to get the emergency vehicle there, the emergency medical team. They would occasionally ask if he was still breathing. And I would walk back up into the garage and his head was moving still. And I said, well, his head's moving. So I assume he's still breathing.
Yes, sir. Have you had an opportunity to review that recorded call that you made to 911 that day?
Yes, I have.
All right. And was it a fair and accurate recording of that call?
Yes.
All right, Judge, at this time, I'd ask to move into evidence States 88.
An objection.
No objection.
States 88 is admitted.
May I publish?
Good true. Oh, look at that guy from from Datelines there. You see him behind the blonde?
Yeah. Looks bored.
Yep.
It's right next door at my house, which is 2122 Trescott Drive. Can you repeat that for verification? 2122 Trescott Drive, T.
There's no redaction on that one.
Okay, the phone number you're calling from? I'm calling from 8502.
Yeah, it's too late, dude.
I can tell exactly what happened. We heard a loud bang and cross pulled away from next door. I came over and looked in, the garage door was up. And I thought the gentleman was backing out, and I went back to my house, but he never backed out. And I came back over, and his driver's side window is shattered, and he's battered, and can't answer. He's inside. I don't know if somebody tried to shoot him, or if he shot himself, or what, I don't know.
And it was at this location, correct?
Right next door. I'll give you mine. I don't know his address. It's next door.
Okay.
He didn't send an ambulance tomorrow. EMG. He's still alive. He's moving.
Still alive, but he never had a chance.
What's going on with it?
I don't know. The driver's side window is all bashed in. He's inside. The car is running, and he's got blood all over his head. He's not responding to me. That number, by the way, is 211-21.
Good job that time. It's already been published, though.
All right, that's the first few minutes of a 14-minute call. Is that how long it took them to get somebody to you?
Seemed to me a lot longer,
Seemed like 14 hours, didn't it?
long time.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination for Mr. Geiger.
What could you possibly say?
Mr. Geiger, you may step down. sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, we got nothing, Your Honor.
Is he
I bet
released
there's
from
gonna be
his
a lot of that.
subpoena? Will anyone need to recall him for any purpose?
He's released, Your Honor.
Have a good day, sir.
All done.
Oh,
Please call your next witness.
State calls David Sims.
You want to go on with Sims, or you want to call it, Drew?
Please approach.
it's up to you.
I don't know who Sims is, so.
He was a quarterback for the Giants.
Oh, Phil Sims, right.
Yeah, then his son was a quarterback for the Buccaneers.
I honestly hate Phil Sims. You dug up some interesting stuff on the defense attorney, the grandma who was presenting
I did.
the case, and by the way, I know I already congratulated myself, but I totally called the play of, we're going to come out and just be the small town country lawyers. We don't have a fancy PowerPoint. All we have is what we could find at Hobby Lobby, closed on Sundays, and,
Yeah, some construction paper, some paper.
but that's exactly the route they took. They're just like, these big fancy prosecutors are trying to lay out a case that's wrong. We love Danny too. We all love Danny. And the way that she was painting it, she didn't come out and say it right away, or she didn't come out and say it explicitly, because any rational mind would just fight back against that immediately. But she wanted to say that this, was as contentious as it was, that Donna was part of a family, and Donna loves her grandkids, and her grandkids have really missed out. She's sitting there hammering about what the grandkids have lost. And so she was really trying to pay this as though Donna was a vicarious victim of all these other people who were involved. Charlie, who you can easily blame because he's already convicted. Katherine, Sigfredo, and Luis, the actual hitmen. It's very easy to lay the blame at their feet. And in terms of how money got moved around, because that paints who the conspirators were. Say, well, Charlie is the one who's emptying his safe and stapling these bills together. But they can't get away with it, as I said, and as you so eloquently put it, le-tits. Right? Katherine Magbanua went away with certain material benefits directly from the Adelsons for their part in it. Most, I don't think Harvey signed the tits or anything, but the vehicle that she came into possession of, this nice Lexus vehicle, I believe it was a Lexus. I could be wrong on that, but that belonged to Harvey Adelson. Donna and Harvey are married, and that's how you inextricably link them to payment for the services that she rendered.
It was either a Lexus or a Land Rover.
It was some nice vehicle. The point is that she came away with it without having to pay market value. And they said that they traced her bank account and that they had absolutely nothing to show that she remitted any kind of payment for that. So, obviously she was being paid for services rendered. This is where forensic accounting comes in to be so important. But totally called it that they were going to try to downplay it. Taliu said that there was a lot of minimizing going on. I think that's completely accurate. Minimizing Donna's role and they said that there's essentially no evidence to say that Donna was involved. But when you hear Donna in her own words, and we will, with various phone calls from the bump and from the jail phone calls, I don't think that the jury is going to be bamboozled at all. I'm calling it now, easy conviction. I mean, I don't think it was ever much in doubt, but as fine as that lawyer was, I don't think that she's going to be able to manage this. But what did you find out about her? Because I think I saw some pretty damning things about there, Drew.
So July in 2009, Charlie Crist was the governor. I think he was a Republican governor on that go around. He flipped into being a Democratic governor so he could run again, but he lost to Rick Scott. Rick Scott, by the way, who appointed this judge who sits on the bench now. But she was on the Second Circuit Court. She replaced a retiring judge. She was retained in an unopposed election the following year. And during her time as a judge, she presided over a number of significant politically charged cases, including one that benefited me. She was one in a major ruling in 2012. She declared a state law requiring public employees to contribute 3% of their salaries to their pension plans as unconstitutional. The agency I work for actually did a lot of work to fix a lot of that. And by the way, Sims is the Tallahassee PD. I think he was the sergeant over homicide at the time, if I'm not.
Was he the one that interviewed Wendi then?
Quite possibly. So obviously he responded to the scene. So she also had had a hand in, this is Jackie Fulford now. She presided over cases related to the privatization of state prisons. She had a restitution order in one case where she ordered a woman to pay back $15,000 in restitution at $1 per month. So that would have stretched over
like how the USFL won an antitrust lawsuit against the NFL for $1. Is that exactly how that works?
But the JQC got a hold of her because of some misconduct. So I think this happens a lot in political appointments anyway. And again, I don't know if she was appointed by a Republican Charlie Crist or Democrat Charlie Crist. He's the same guy, just two different parties. And they said that she used her judicial office to influence attorneys. Apparently she kind of forced somebody into doing some pro bono work. And she publicly opposed a political candidate. She had a cutout of the Wakulla sheriff in her office. She was buddies with him, apparently. And I guess one of the bailiffs made a remark about not, and I'm taking a lot of this out of, just like summarizing. I could be wrong. But she had this cutout and he made some kind of snide remark about the sheriff. And she's like, okay, well, you're no longer welcome in my court. So she had him removed as a bailiff and put back out to pasture, whatever. And small county sheriffs are going to have their way with people who oppose them.
It happens, yeah.
And inappropriately intervening in the criminal case of a significant other's son. It doesn't say if it's, a husband or a wife or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever. But the bottom line is there was a domestic incident, and I think she went and visited the kid in jail and all this other stuff, and she was a judge at the time. So it kind of pushes the bounds. So they reported her to the JQC, and the JQC decided that she had some issues, and they allowed her to retire. And just reading between the lines, I'm not making any accusations. I have no clue if this is the case. But a lot of times in those instances, there is substance abuse involved. And so maybe that's what happened. I don't know. But they forced her into retirement. And then basically, I don't think they ever took her credentials or law license. But
well, I mean, she was here this morning, so.
Yeah, right. And I'm telling you, like, I don't have a problem with either of those attorneys. I think, I think the guy definitely rubs you the wrong way at times, rubs all of us the wrong way at times, but she's definitely got the motherly appeal, and she has the command of a judge. You know, I was fine with what she's saying. I don't believe any of it, and that's my choice. And, you know, like, we know what we know. Or we know what we've been presented with. So,
Yeah.
Who is this?
I'm not sure. I'll put her back on.
And clearly for the jurors.
Please introduce yourself and spell your name.
My name is Joanne Maltese. Joanne, Joanne, and Maltese, Maltese.
Are you employed, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Are you employed as law enforcement, in law
No,
enforcement?
I am retired Tallahassee Police Forensic Specialist.
How long have you been retired from, it's Tallahassee Police Department, right?
Yes, a little over 8 years.
What were your duties when you were employed there?
Duties as a forensic specialist is the documentation, collection, and preservation of evidence at a crime scene.
How long did you do that type of work?
Done that work for probably 15 years.
Okay. And were you doing it back on July 18th of 2014?
Yes.
As part of your job, did you respond to 2116 Trescott Drive on that date?
Yes, I did.
And what was your job once you arrived at that particular scene?
That particular day, I was called to document and collect evidence at a crime scene.
Publish 10, please. Is this the scene that you're referencing?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm going to approach and show you states 11 through 17 as well. Just have you look through those and tell me. If
You can kill it, John.
Are we all finished?
I think so. We might even wind this down unless you got something else, but it's up to you.
Who is Joanne Maltese? I missed it.
Forensics from Tallahassee PD.
Okay.
All I'm saying is I'm not critical of their looks. I'm just saying this is like a before, during, and after.
Do you think that the lawyers are intentionally doing that? Is like they're presenting a united front of like respectable womendom here? I mean, I don't know how else they would look, but you're right that there is sort of there's a certain symmetry here. It's almost like the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil type.
Yeah, it's like The View.
Yeah.
It's basically The View, but I don't know how else to put it. They like, if you took the mouth and nose of the young one and the eyes and hair of the old one, you would have Donna Adelson. Yes?
I completely agree. There's a bizarre symmetry there. The only thing I can think of is that Dawn is dressed down a little bit because the lawyer's got to appear professional, but whatever hatred that you're going to naturally have for a lawyer must not fall on Donna as well. Don't you think Donna's a little underdressed? I mean, it's all intentional, of course. It's all stagecraft, but she does look a little underdressed to me.
Yeah,
maybe that's part of the whole grandma appeal. Grandma doesn't go to court, so you can't dress up in a three-piece suit and go to court if you're grandma, right?
right. I did hear that she was fitted, like she actually had a tailor come in or to fit her, but that was before. It was like like a year ago or whatever when she started going to these hearings, and she's supposedly gained weight.
Well, you do that on an all-starch diet. When most of what you're being fed, gray, yellow, is all starches, that'll happen, particularly when you're not getting a lot of exercise. But I don't know. If I'm done, I'm like, well, these are the last times I'm ever going to wear normal clothes for the rest of my life. I want to look pretty. I want to look nice. This was her chance, and she blew it, because from here on out, it's all orange jumpsuits. So
yeah. Yep.
Or the purple scrubs that they wear in the Florida Department of Corrections. Anything else? Any other closing thoughts? I thought the opening statements went well. We could clearly see what the defense strategy is going to be, is to blame everyone else but Donna and try to undermine and minimize whatever evidence they have of Donna. But I think the jury's going to get it.
Yeah, I think from here, John, we'll just do like daily updates. If there's a significant witness and people are clamoring for it, obviously we'll gladly.
I think if Donna goes on the stand and we're available, I think we should go live for that. But other than that, I think daily updates will suffice. Just because, like, I think this case is a slam dunk.
I do too.
Thank you to those 2 extra people.
Wait a second. You got to see this because it did something funky. Hold on. That was cool.
Did we lose 9 and gain
I didn't want
11?
There. Look. Fireworks.
Oh, is that for me?
Hey, look at that trajectory. So yeah, so all you critics and all you Karen Reed people who dislike me.
All you people who never thought we'd get anywhere. We have 10,002.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing
We have as many subscribers as Drew's nephew's Lego channel. We're there. We have arrived. And we're just every bit as popular as unboxing new Lego sets.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go build Hagrid's castle in Legos and watch the remainder of this trial. I'll do an update at the end of the day and then probably just do updates daily. And then we'll kind of just play it by ear. We'll kind of be like on hiatus, so to speak, but we'll definitely be following the trial pretty closely.
Yeah. Drew, let me know if you need me later today. I've got to sleep at some point because I got to work overnight and I got some other stuff. But if you're going to go live again today, you let me know.
Okay, buddy.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching the Comm Center. It was great to do this live stream with you. We've never done this before, and we learned some things about what to do and what not to do. I can only hope that Wendi, just for my sake alone, is soon indicted for the murder of her ex-husband. So what if it completely, destroys the criminal justice system? I care about me here, folks. This is about me and beating that damn Lego channel. All right, guys, we'll catch you back here soon. If not sooner than Thursday, then next Thursday, but definitely sooner than that. We'll catch you back here next time. Drew, it's been a weird pleasure.
Peace out. Deuces. Awkwardness. I'm going to go testify.
I didn't like that middle third.